And all he's done for us. Is anybody on the council that would like to make any changes to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, do you have a motion that we adopt the agenda that's before you? So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Yes. All right, we have three guests tonight. First, we have Mr. Jim Livingston from River Valley Regional Commission, who's going to talk to us about our CDBG application. Thank you, sir.
Y'all, thank you. I'm working with the engineer right now. Y'all got a good, strong application. Ms. Diane's just giving me some good pictures to show evidence. This is essentially the same project y'all put in for last year. Where you missed points for state's requirements is in your evidence for the project. Evidence that this was a need. The pictures are going to help substantially. Your work orders, people complaining, and the work Mr. Jackson's been doing to try to get that rectified, that's going to help. And the last thing is letters. We need to get letters from residents stating that we've got issues. And handwritten from them is really what we need. Just if they've got sewer backups at any place in this target area. This area is just off Andrews. It's just on the west side of Andrews Street. So you've got what I need from y'all today is a resolution to apply for the project. And a resolution for your cash match. There's a cash match requirement for this project, as well as some leverage to get some extra bonus points for putting this together. So, with that, I think Mr. Wallace talked to you a little bit about some other aspects of the project. Do y'all have any questions of me as we put this in?
Okay, you've got the resolution before you that asks that we leverage this application if we get the grant up to $750,000, that the city would make a cash match of $25,000 plus in kind. We would have to also do some in kind match that our city crew could fulfill that obligation. To reiterate, there's no cash match if we don't get the grant. I think that the resolution also gives me the authorization to sign for the grant. So you got that before you, or there any, I don't know, not necessarily read it out, but in essence what I'm saying is the cash match, the in-kind match, it gives me the authorization to sign for the grant. So if there are any questions about what we're asking you to pass. Okay, do we have a motion to adopt a resolution that would allow the city of Cuthbert to obligate $25,000 cash as a match for fiscal year 2018 Community Development Block Grant from the Georgia Department of Community Affairs if we receive the grant?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please, ma'am.
Alderman Jones. Aye. Alderman Howard.
Aye.
Alderman Mock.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson. Aye. Alderman Hale.
Aye.
And Alderman Gadsden.
Aye.
Okay. Do you need anything else from me?
No, sir. The next process is once we get the engineering report together, finalize the full budget. You all are clear on what you're going to spend. What's not clear is what the costs are and what all pieces are falling in place. Once we have all that together, I'll get back with Mr. Watley and we'll get the rest of this signed. Excuse me.
And, Mr. Livingston, we did say that, we'll make sure that I'm clear on this, that it would be a great help if we need to get citizens to express their concerns over these issues, these sewer issues.
Yes.
That will really help with the grant, leverage for the grant.
It will help tremendously.
Tremendously.
Yes.
Tremendously, like that will really help, especially with 3rd Street, especially from the areas that really need it. So it's our time right now. If we don't get it,
We get crickets and nobody responded. The state's going to look at this and they're going to say, well, they don't. I mean, we see issues, we know problems, but people aren't complaining. We're gonna go where people complain. So it's time to be the squeaky wheel.
Okay. All right, thanks, sir.
Thank you all.
All right, next on the agenda is a report from Ms. Tricia Goodman from the Chamber of Commerce.
Hey, y'all have a magazine that you cannot keep, but, it's the, Southwest Georgia Living Magazine, and I've marked, there's 12 pages in that magazine, of Chris Johnson and his murals that are in Cuthbert and Shellman. I knew that the article was gonna be there, but I had no idea it would be 12 pages. I'm really excited about it. Okay, you've got a packet, and you all out here have, the newsletter. And, wanted to let you know that, next week is Small Business Week in Georgia, and we're gonna be, recognizing our small businesses. Rotary Club is a business organization, and, both the mayors and, the county commission chair will be there to sign proclamations. You all are welcome to come. We meet at Andrew College at noon on every Tuesday, so you're welcome to come if you would like to. But we just want them to know that, we really know that they are important. They are the economic tool of Randolph County. We want to just recognize them. So thank your business owners next week or any time for what they do. You have an invitation to our annual meeting, which is March the 22nd. You also have an invitation to Keep Randolph Beautiful kickoff for our Great American Cleanup on Friday. We do need to know that you're coming. If you're coming to the Keep Randolph Beautiful luncheon, it's no charge, but we do need to have enough food for everybody. So do let me know if you're coming, so we can plan on that. Keep Randolph Beautiful focuses on 3 things: litter, recycling, and beautification. And so we'll let you know a lot more about that. You remember that every year we do a community appearance index, and that's going to be April the 18th. We'll leave the Welcome Center parking lot at 9, and we'll end up in Shellman for lunch on your own at the back porch, and then we'll be back here around 2. So if anybody can volunteer to go with us, it's a great eye-opener of what we see throughout Randolph County with litter, graffiti, illegal signs, abandoned vehicles, and dilapidated buildings that we rate how they are throughout the county. We do know that we do have litter laws, litter ordinances on the books, but we're not enforcing them like we should. So after we do the litter, the index and get some figures, we're going to ask our local police and sheriff's some groups to meet with us, and let's talk about how we might kind of get a little bit more strict on taking care of that. We are working on raising some money for 2 more Welcome to Cuthbert signs coming in 82 East and West. We're going to have some recommendations for y'all and several choices for y'all in a couple of months. We've got about $3,700 raised already, and I've been working with Georgia Power on some costs for lighting. One cost is probably going to be a little bit, one's not going to be anything other than a monthly fee. But we'll bring that to you in a couple of months when we have all that ironed out for you. The main reason that I'm actually here is to talk to you about rural prosperity. And I think that you're aware that last year the House of Representatives organized a committee to go around the state and listen to groups and anybody that came to their meetings about rural issues in Georgia, throughout Georgia. Just because we're in South Georgia, the majority of Georgia is rural. So they went all over the state listening. North Georgia has rural areas just like us. So they went all over the state. And at the same time, the Georgia Chamber was doing some research on rural prosperity, and the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture for the President of the United States was doing a study. So they've got 3 studies out there. I've downloaded each one of them, and I have studied them, and over the last 4 weeks, this will be the last one, in the Chamber Chatter, I have summarized those. And what you have is a 3-page document that I put together that's a combination of the Chamber Chatters that goes over what these three documents say. And at the beginning of it, it tells you the name of each document and where you can go online and download it. If you want a copy, we can make one for you at our office. I'm sure Diane can make one for you at her office, but if you want a full copy of it. But all three of those documents overlap in 4 key areas that they say are critical to rural prosperity that we have got to work on. And one is workforce and education. They're saying that each community should have a strategic plan to figure out how they're going to have a good workforce that's viable to bring industry to us. And we've got to educate our kids to be ready for a competitive global world. There are 3 curriculum that they are really focusing on, and that's STEM, science, technology, engineering and math. Thank you, I went blank. There's also 2 new ones that I was unaware of until just recently. STEAM, which adds arts, and STREAM, which adds robotics. And there's curriculums for all of them. So they're encouraging schools to look at those curriculums and introduce those into the schools, K through 12. Then economic development, they're talking, what they're saying is that you've got to do regionalism. You have to regionalize. And you're probably hearing a lot about that, David, and David's taken the Georgia Academy of Economic Development. I'm sure you're probably hearing a lot about that. That you've got to develop partnerships, you have to have connectivity to pool your resources, you've got to have training, you've got to have marketing, you've got to have health care, you've got to have infrastructure. Those are all critical to even having the beginning of economic development. There's a lot more that I've included there that I'll let you read on your own. Then quality of life. Every time we meet on strategic planning, we say, oh, we have a great quality of life in Cuthbert and Randolph County. Well, our quality of life is not the same thing that they're saying quality of life is. So, I'm going to tell you what they're saying. That quality of life is human well-being identified through economic and social indicators, such as modern utilities, affordable housing, efficient transportation, reliable employment that is integrated with access to medical services, public safety, education, and community resilience. So I'm not sure that we have all of those in place to be able to say we do have a great quality of life based on their definition. And they go on to say a good bit about the health issues. We've got to do things to bring the millennials and the younger people back into our communities. We know that. We've just got to figure out how to do it. And then lastly, they talk about broadband. That's just, I mean, you can't, that's not even a amenity anymore. That is a definite you have got to have. And I wish that Jim were still here because he was the head person at River Valley Regional Commission that a couple of years ago did a digital economy study of the River Valley Regional Commission counties. And they found that we had a good bit of broadband. Now, there are places that we don't, of course, but that the majority of our area has broadband. The speed of it wasn't bad. But where we fell short was using it like it should have been used, like it could be used, maximizing its use. So training is needed, especially for our business owners and managers to know how to use the internet and broadband to expand their business and grow their business. So we need training on that. But key to all of this is leadership. Leadership. And so to accomplish all these goals, we've got to have leadership. They've got to be trained. We can't just sit here and think, well, I'm a leader, so now let's go do it. We've got to know how to do the leadership. We've got to know what skills to have. And so I am challenging y'all to go to meetings, to go to trainings, to go to seminars, to go wherever you can go, and you all too, that want to support in growing Randolph, to go to these meetings so that you can learn what they're saying is what leadership is today, the servant leadership of how you go about doing the strategic planning that needs to be done. So all of this has been in the chamber chatter. I don't know how many of you read it, but it's all been in there. And the last article will be this week that will finalize all of it. And it's mainly on leadership, I think. Also, I have a sheet that tells you that 2 weeks ago, I think it was, a bill was introduced in the House, I think it was the House, to create a Center for Rural Prosperity and Innovation. So it hasn't passed, but I feel like that it's going to. The state chamber has already created such a center, and it's located in Tifton, that's going to be working with rural communities. But hopefully that will happen. But other couple of things that I want to mention to you is we have a council of governments, and that's a 4-county area: Randolph, Clay, Stewart, and Quitman. And one of the things that we're working on is a project called Employee ID Project, and it is hitting on the workforce issue. We have identified through the business licenses sheet that y'all have, the businesses in Cuthbert, and they will be getting either via email or mail a survey asking them what skills their employees need, what skills they are lacking in that they need. And we're working with Albany Tech and Columbus Tech to help develop curriculums to meet those needs. We're still tweaking the survey, but as soon as it is available, it will go out. And so we'll be looking forward to the results of that, and we'll be sharing that with you all when we get that done. We also have a Southwest Georgia Regional Development Authority that is becoming active. It has been not doing much over the last couple of years, but now we're going to be active. And one of the things, the first thing that has to be done is training. The University of Georgia, Carl Vinson Institute provides that training throughout the regions in Georgia. They charge $245 for that training. And so whoever is going, they have to reimburse you plus your travel. Well, we have gotten them to say that they will come down here and do the training for us for $2,500, unlimited number. So it's really a good deal for us to have. And they should be coming in June. We still haven't gotten the date finalized, but it's required of all development authority members. It's recommended for elected officials. So the last sheet that you have are the topics, some of the major topics that they will be covering. And I will let you all know when that training is going to be held and where. It's either going to be at Bagby Park or probably at Andrew College. We're not sure where yet. It's going to depend on the date and what's available. But do want you to know about that training.
What counties are in the south there?
Randolph, Clay, Stewart, and Quitman. And Danny Blackman, who most of you may know from Quitman County, is the chairman of that that committee, and he has worked on this chart. This is the last thing we're talking about. This chart right here. Y'all see it? Got it today. The 2020 census is coming up. And this information shows you the 4 counties, and I'm just going to talk about Randolph. The population in 2010 is on there. The population in 2016, that was a good estimate of something that the census folks did, is on there. And it shows a loss of population in Randolph County of almost 500 people in those 6 years. We get money from the federal government per person every year for the people that are identified. And the number that Danny used was $1,750, which I think is what they used in 2010. I don't know what it'll be in 2020. He multiplied that times the 494 people that we lost. So we will lose almost $864,000 in a year. It will be lost to Randolph County. Multiply that times 10, because it's 10 years, that's over $8.5 million. Then you've got to add the economic factor, which they're using as a 7, you multiply that times that, and you're losing over $60 million in 10-year time. We cannot afford to lose people in this census. Now, if they're not here, okay, they're not here. But we've got to identify every single living body in Cuthbert, in Shellman, and in the county to get all of the dollars that are due us. Now, the governor is aware of this, and that's why he has commissioned all of the regional commissions in the state to help the cities and the county. And y'all have already signed a contract with them to do that. They will be helping in the process of identifying people. But we still have got to get on the streets and do that legwork. So whoever our census workers ended up being, we need to make sure they understand the importance of locating every single person. And y'all are gonna have to do that when we start doing that.
You don't think, excuse me, you don't think that loss is kind of accurate?
It probably is. It probably is. But we just don't want to lose anybody because we know we've lost people. And I hate to say it, but every time I hear of a death, I think, oh no, that's, you know, I'm sorry for the family, and that's one less person. We need another person born. And we need more people to move back to make up the difference. So we've got to make sure we identify them all. Because it's probably accurate, but we just need to make sure we know where they all are and make sure we don't lose anybody in the process. Appreciate all y'all do. I need my magazines back. I've already lost one. I don't know where I've left it.
Okay, thank you,
Thank
Patricia,
you.
appreciate it, appreciate the good report. Okay, next on the agenda is Mr. Lee Bird. You got the floor, sir.
Good evening. The main structure of the stone house was built in 1930, and about in the 70s sometime, it turned into a business location. And from there, in 2002, I purchased the facility. And in 2011, I purchased an alcohol license, which James Ellis did at the time. And it was advertised for 2 weeks. If anyone had a complaint against the stone house, they should have came forward at that time. And since that time, we've always had food service as well as events there, from 2002 all the way to now. And from my understanding, the Browns purchased their home there in the late 90s. And in 2011, their house burned down. And they made a choice to build a new house in that same location. Okay, that's just a little background. Okay, but this past Saturday night, a week ago, on the 3rd of March, I was standing outside of my facility, and a young lady by the name of Elizabeth Lawson, officer here, I would assume, she drove up and she said, "Are you Mr. Bird?" I said, "Yes, I am." She said, "Well, you probably saw me when I kind of stopped right before I got to your place. I could hear some music." I said, "Yes." And she says, "Now, I had a complaint. If I have to come back, I'm going to shut your business down. The party will be over for the night." I said, "Ma'am, you're going to shut my party down?" "Oh, I'm not going to argue with you. If I come back in, I'm going to shut the damn party down." That's exactly what she said to me at that time. And I went inside, and we had a guy named Darrell Lee, who's a radio personality, DJing on that particular night. And I said, "Your music is not loud, but turn it down." So, which he did. He complied. And somewhere around 11:40, I got in my truck, and I'm going to ride around the block to see if I hear any music or whatever. In riding my truck, I didn't hear any music. But when I got somewhere near one stop, I see her car parked there, where I guess she's trying to listen for music. And up Blakely Hill comes another police car at a high rate of speed, and I assume that was Officer Hall. Well, anyway, I go around the block, and I come back, and both officer cars are parked in front of my business at the time. And I go in the side door, and I try to find Mr. Gesson, who was there that particular night. And I says, but they say he's already left, so I go out to this vehicle, and Mr. Gesson, please, I need you. They're trying to shut me down, and I know the music is not loud. Please help me or whatever. So he got it out of his vehicle and came in, and I guess he tried to talk with me for a little while. And then I came up front, and I tried to tell her, I said, "Ma'am, why did you shut my music down?" I mean, they had the DJ to turn the music off, told everybody to go home or whatever. And I said, why would you shut the party down? And she said a few curse words in her conversation with me and said people need to go home, whatever. I said, they don't have to go home now, or whatever. And it's a bad situation, and I would like to know under what condition or what circumstances a police officer have the power to shut a business down. I was voted in by the city council here. I would like to think the city council would vote me out. Now, if they have probable cause to shut it down, that means a crime is being committed, or they can assume a crime might be committed with the conditions, somebody's fighting, shooting, or whatever. I can understand that. But on that particular night, we had an adult crowd. It wasn't a large crowd, but nobody's arguing, nobody's fighting, or nothing. Just everybody having a good time. And so happened, Mr. Shaheem Foster, who's here tonight, someone told me he wanted to talk with me, but I was so upset because, I mean, there was no reason for her to shut us down. And she was very unprofessional. And they said he wanted to talk with us. So I called him that Sunday, and he told me that he had a little segment where he walked the perimeter of my property, and he filmed what was going on right before the cops shut the party down, and he can answer to that. And so I have the little film here. This is night. Just keep that in mind. I would like you all to see that. To show that this goes on a lot with the police department here. But you can listen anyway.
Hello. Play.
Yes, over there. One word to the part of it. And right here. Okay. They can cause a lot of their music.
And as a matter of fact, Mr. Foster, when I was talking to the young lady, Mr. Foster approached her. That's the first time she showed up a little bit after 11. And he said, ma'am, he said, I think you're doing this man wrong. I'm a policeman myself. That music is not loud. And she told him he didn't work for the Cuthbert Police Department, and they may have said a few words from there. So I assume that's why he filmed it for himself, to show that the music was not loud. I didn't ask him to do it, but God is good. And he had someone there who was a good Samaritan and did what needed to be done. This helps a lot. And it's so subjective when a person can say your music is loud, whether it's loud or not. And I mean, the city judge, he works for the city. So 99% of the time, he's going on with those cops. But they've lied. I've given him 10 or 11 tickets unjustly. And this is a prime example. And I do have something I'd like for you to look at also. I'm not going to take a lot of your time tonight. But I've talked to the chief on several occasions. I don't think he's ever been out to my place. But he tells me that a person has a right to the quietness of their home, and that is true. But if you read down a little further, I've highlighted that part at the top, but I like to read the fine print when I read it. But at the top it does say, under state law, tenants have the right to the quiet enjoyment of one's property. But if you look down further, where I have the second part highlighted, it says, notwithstanding, most noise laws do not protect people who voluntarily and knowingly choose to live near the source of the noise disturbance. In short, the law does not allow you to follow the nuisance, and then expect to be able to take legal action to stop it or recover damages as a result of it, no matter how annoying or disturbing the noise might be. That says a lot in itself. When their house burned down, they had a choice. They chose to build a new house there, and as a matter of fact, the house is closer to the stone house than the previous house. Because the previous house had the driveway on my side. So now the driveway is on the opposite side. The house is closer to the stone house than it was previously. Thank you. Now, if you have any question, anything, or Mr. Foster want him to answer anything.
Anybody that would like to ask Mr. Byrd any questions? or any whatever?
His question was not answered. The question you asked at first is not.
Oh, okay. Yeah, when do they have the authority? My understanding has always been that with law enforcement, it's probable cause. That means you see a crime being committed, or it's a strong possibility a crime might occur if they don't take some actions. And I think they took some drastic action without probable cause. And that means I had to pay DJ out of my pocket.
Where's our police chief tonight? I saw
He is, and he's probably not gonna be there. He was in court and all that, court case over there.
So he'll be the one to answer questions.
He'll have to be the one to ask the question. Now, we asked that question in the public safety, committee meeting we had, and we have not received, complete answer yet to that question. We're waiting to hear one. And I've also posed questions to our attorney, and I'm waiting to hear from him also. So I cannot completely answer Mr. Bird's question tonight, whether our police department has the authority to shut this down today. But we will be on that.
To me, that's too subjective because, you know, I'm the type of person, I don't bother anyone, I stay by myself, and, you know, if you ask me a question, I've always been inquisitive. I'm gonna ask you a question back, and that's just Lee Bird. I have no hard feelings against anyone, and I wish the Browns would just forget it and we all get along.
But just for the record, they shut you down at 12, and you normally would have shut down at 1.
At 1, but even when I shut down at 1, if I have a decent crowd, then my food service will go longer.
Right. Your music would stop.
My music stops at 1, yes.
Yeah, so he got a call at what time? What time they first, did they get 2 calls, or did they just get 1 call?
Well, Mr. Byrd tried to get a copy of the log today, and he was not able to get that because the chief was not in the office, and the door was locked, the log was in the office. So I assume they got 2 calls. That's what we told you.
Well, the first time I talked to the chief, shortly after he took the job, found out from some other officers that he got a rule if you get 2 calls to give a ticket. And I also been told that one of our policemen, I think he's third in charge, Anthony Scott, he told me every time they come out, they'd give me a ticket. If not, I need to be paying their salary. That's what Officer Thurman told me. So they got some in-house rules that they're using. I don't think they state law, but it's in-house rules.
My suggestion is that we need to meet with our police force, and we have inside things like that going on.
Well, yeah, we do. We don't know. Sometimes that street talk is not always paying out. We know that.
I agree.
But we are waiting, and I also have asked the attorney to consider improvising or adding to our present noise ordinance to come back and give us some options. If we wanted to consider other options for the noise ordinance that would, as Mr. Byrd said, take the subjectivity out of it and make it a little more concrete of a decision and take the judgment out of it. So, Mr. Pruitt, you don't know whether that's been done. Now, I called Glenn last Thursday and asked him that, and he was going to research that.
Okay, I do know, what's the machines you have, that you've come to court with it once? It measures sound.
Oh, sound meter, decibel meter?
Decibel meter, yeah, it's got some fancy name, I can't remember, but yes, but measuring sound, that's objective. Right now, the statute is 50 feet from the building, I believe it was. I mean, I remember I even had to prosecute you one night.
Right.
But I mean, you're sitting there going, well, somebody's half deaf, they're not gonna hear it, but somebody with good hearing is. We do think it needs to be more objective, but I'll get with Tommy and we'll present you on something.
We need to put to bed about what about shutting it down, whether they want a legal ground to do that, and to make some additions to our ordinance, because, obviously, Mr. Byrd doesn't want to be up here at every council meeting.
I don't want to come back at all. I don't even want to talk to the police, to be honest with you. But I don't bother anyone. They come to me. They say I talk back, but yes, I was born in the 50s, raised in the 60s and 70s. I grew up in the segregated South. So I've seen hard times. I've lived what you read about. So that's a whole different ballgame when someone confronts you when you know you haven't done anything wrong. And that's in short.
Let me ask you a question. On that,
Yes, ma'am.
on that video, and you said that was what was going on?
Right before they shut me, they came and shut me down and said, well, the music was loud. Mr. Fosse's here.
Did anybody hear the music?
Right, you got to be in the parking lot to actually hear a little bit of music. So anytime the door opens, sound travels, waves move. When someone at Irish Garden, I can hear the music at my place because sound waves travel. And that's what I try to explain, but they don't want me to talk. And I probably know a little bit more about that than they do.
I'm just wondering, because I know I didn't hear any music. I was just wondering what's in it playing.
On the back side of your building, and it might be a question I ask you personally, on the back side of your building that you did add on for room for the thing, did you do anything like soundproofing or any installation, anything that would keep the sound from even, would you do anything to help prevent yourself from going through this, is what I'm asking?
Yes, sir. To answer your question, I have some large speakers, bass bins, what you call them. It costs over $3,000. They're still in my building. I unhook those, and I spent about $5,000 triple insulating the inside. But that doesn't, I spent, thinking that they would leave me alone once I spent about $5,000 insulating the inside. So, and that's still not gonna stop. Every time you open doors, sound waves travel out those doors, and that's probably what Miss Elizabeth was hearing. But when the door closes, you don't hardly hear it.
And certain music has more bass in it than others.
Correct.
So you might hear one sound, one song, you might hear more than you hear the other song.
Correct, yes. Some songs have a little more bass, and only thing I have on my phone, I have a decibel meter on it, app. So a lot of times I'm outside my building trying to measure the sound, and I do that quite often to try to help alleviate the situation. But sometimes, whether they're hearing music or not, they're gonna call. This past week I played till 12:30, if I had nobody there, they didn't call. The week before I had maybe 30 cars in the parking lot, they called. So I think they kind of look at the parking lot and decide whether they can call it or not. They played 12:30 this past Saturday, and no one called.
In your opinion, was music just as loud?
Just a tad below what it was with people in there, yes.
And I had several people to approach me and ask what can be done about the situation. And I didn't know, but I told them what they need to do is come up here and get on the agenda and talk in behalf of Mr. Byrd, because the people that talked to me said the music was not loud, and he was treated bad that time.
And Mr. Hall, who's I think been on for about 2 years, he came and gave me another ticket. He's given me about 4. He came and he wrote me a ticket. After everyone left, he showed back up with a ticket in his hand. And I said, he looked at Mr. Byrd. I said, I'm right over here. He was outside just, trying to digest the situation. And he said, I got something for you. I said, what is that? He said, order to appear. I said, for what? He said, loud music. And he just laid the ticket on the man's truck, the DJ's truck, and left.
After they have shut the place, after they shut the place down,
Yes.
and they came back with the ticket.
Came back with a ticket. Yep. And he does that all the time. So I got a ticket after the fact. I mean, the girl is one who, and I got that on another tape too. I asked him what this ticket for. He said, well, she said your music was loud. So he's going on what the girl said. Well, the girl lied. I mean, for him right there, the girl lied. That was he told me the ticket for. I got that on another tape, by the way. But I won't play that right here.
Okay, anybody else got any questions for Mr. Byrd? Well, I hope we move for the resolution, that's what I go.
All right, this ought to help some. I do my research.
All right. Next on the agenda is a motion to adopt the minutes from the February 12th and the February 26th meeting. You should have had a copy of those minutes. One was the working meeting where we met with the group about the equipment, the fire equipment, and the other was the regular meeting. So are there any additions or deletions to the minutes? Okay, hearing none, do we have a motion that we adopt the minutes from the February 12th and February 26th meeting?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye. Okay. Next on the agenda is a motion to adopt the financial reports for February. Okay, you'll begin by opening first and look at the consolidated report, your first report. You notice on the expenses, the administration is showing a minus figure of 161787. Remember last month I told y'all since we were moving to the new office, we were going to, we made the extra payroll last month. Plus we will refund our portion of, Family Connection, that where they fund that grant that pays Ms. Kenita Murphy's salary. So between the two, having one less payroll and the refund of the money from Family Connection, that's why that expense is negative. If you look at your revenue generating reports, under water, it shows a deficit for the month. From supplies, we purchased $3,460 worth of pipe from Consolidated Lighting. The rest of those supplies were from Georgia Power, so that's what threw that into a deficit position. All the other revenue generating departments were in the black, with the exception of water. That purchase of that $3,460 was expensed in a month, but it would be several months worth of pipe that would be used, but it expensed out on a cash basis, so it all got charged in February. Diane, is any other notations about any of the financial reports?
Other than the electric franchise came in about $9,300 less than what we budgeted this year.
All right, that's the franchise tax from Georgia Power, franchise fee from Georgia Power that came in under budget, and I spoke with a couple of other government entities in our area, and theirs also came in under budget. However, our insurance premium tax came in over budget, so the two pretty well balance themselves out.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, any questions or any comments about any of the financial reports? Okay, hearing none, do we have a motion that we adopt the financial report?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please, ma'am.
Alderman Jones. Alderman Howard. Alderman Mock. Alderman Johnson. Alderman Ham. And Alderman Gadsden.
Okay, next on the agenda is a motion to pay the debts against the city, which were $217,910.06. Certainly ask any questions or make any comments about those. There's one line item, which is about 3/4 of the way down, first page, which is government tax services. That was paying the, company we hired to have the tax sale. And we will continue to collect some of those taxes. When we do, we do not have to pay them anymore. That's for their whole services, for the whole deal. Diane, any other, debts against the city? Most of them are pretty routine.
Yes, sir, that's basically what it is routine, except for the one you mentioned about the taxes.
Does anybody have any questions about any of those, debts against the city? I won't rush y'all. Anybody got any questions?
Not here.
Okay. We have a motion to pay the debts against the city.
So,
Second.
The roll call, please, ma'am.
Alderman Jones. Alderman Howard. Alderman Mock. Alderman Johnson. Alderman Ham. And Alderman Gadsden.
Okay, next on the agenda is a resolution that has been recommended by our legal team to adopt a sexual harassment policy. Mr. Pruitt, do you have any comments about that?
Just, sign of the times in which we live. It's, you know, it needs to be something concrete that we can look to if something like this happens against the city, to where these actions we're taking, this is how we investigate it. This just lays out the rules for that. It's gonna, for lack of a better term, make the city look better if a claim ever does arise, to show that we followed these procedures, we've thought about this. That's the procedure.
All right, everybody got a copy of this sexual harassment policy in their folder and has had. Y'all have any questions or have any comments about the policy? One issue on 2703 is that employees have a right to raise the issue of sexual harassment without reprisal. In other words, no retaliation for complaining. That's always a big deal.
Did you read that again, sir?
I said that employees have the right to raise the issue of sexual harassment without reprisal, without being retaliated against. All right, how would, is this something that we need to have do we need to have a reading on, or can we just adopt this resolution? Can we just adopt this resolution? All right. I don't think anybody would have any opposition since we don't have a policy at all. So it's a resolution adopting a sexual harassment policy for the city of Cuthbert, repealing all ordinance in conflict herewith and for other purposes. It'll be a part of our personnel policy. If there's not any other questions about this, do we have a motion that we adopt this sexual harassment policy for the city of Cuthbert?
I so move.
no, second.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Okay. All right, next on the agenda is, we do have a first reading of an ordinance instead of just adopting it. I'll probably let the attorney speak to this, so I won't misspeak, but, basically what we're doing is coming up with a contract with our municipal judge that will be an annual contract.
Correct.
There's been some discussion about this over a while, about, you know, what the situation, not personally with the judge we got, but, is he hired? If we decided we didn't want that particular municipal judge, how we would part ways? This, gives the city, a contract for the judge to sign, and I assume he'll sign it. We haven't approached that subject with him, but it's a 1-year, contract. And, any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's operating off the state law, so unless you have a for cause reason, you can't fire the magistrate judge or, dissolve the position. This allows you to enter a written contract with him and make it an annual appointment. And what we find is most people that you lump this in with your January 1 to-do list, and you re-up it every year. But it lays guidelines for the judge, how he should operate, and just the rules to play by again. That's the purpose of this, to let both sides know how we're
What's
going to
expected?
Yeah.
Any questions about that? Any comments or concerns about that? What? All right. So how do we, Diane, need to just have a reading? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was reading on the salary report where it said that we go off the training. We require to pay for his training class.
That's the way it's been in the papers too, also, that's nothing, that's part of it. And I don't know how many times he's gone off, I can't think of many times, just a time or
I
two.
think it's like once every 2 years.
It's required by the state for him to have a training.
And with all ordinances, y'all don't want to bring it again next month, y'all can make a motion to suspend the second reading and go ahead and formally adopt it tonight, that's up to y'all.
Are there any qualifications?
He has to be a lawyer, yeah.
All right, this is an ordinance to amend the code of ordinances of the city of Cuthbert to provide for a service agreement and a maximum term of office for the municipal court judge, to provide an effective date to repeal all ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict here with and for other purposes. We first of all have a motion that we dispense with the second reading of the ordinance. Go ahead and adopt the ordinance tonight. Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. All right, now do we have a motion to adopt the ordinance? And a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, all right, you'll have to get with Judge Hall and get him to sign.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, next on the agenda is a ordinance to establish rules and regulations governing the construction of cell towers within the city of Cuthbert. We had a hearing at 5:30 to see was there any concern or any input from the public. We had none. There again, anything you need to update us on, just prove it on that.
This just fills cracks. So the power companies, they can all just take the road right-of-ways and use them to put up poles. There's federal and state law, these cell phone towers are lobbied and they come in right behind them. What this is doing though is putting restrictions, so they can't just put one up right in the middle of the downtown. And y'all, as a city council, can adopt this. It talks about height restrictions, the color, the design. It's gonna hopefully make the cell phone towers not want to set up downtown and go to more rural areas to achieve the same purpose, give the city service, but not have a ugly looking cell tower right downtown. So this just tries to put teeth to that and make it and prevent it from happening.
Okay, anybody got any questions or concerns about this ordinance? All right, this is an ordinance of the city of Cuthbert establishing rules and regulations governing the construction of cell towers within the city of Cuthbert, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith and for other purposes. Do we have a motion that we dispense with the second reading of this ordinance? I'm sorry. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right, do we have a motion that we adopt this ordinance establishing rules and regulations for governing construction of cell towers?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Okay, next, item of discussion is, we have a quote from 10/8 that we had a special working meeting, last month about the, breathing apparatuses for our fire department. And there was some discussion about whether we needed 4 or we needed 8. Refresh us again, Mr. Coleman, about the 4 or the 8. I think we had to have 4, but we would like to have 8, isn't that correct?
That's correct. To equip all.
We would need 8 to equip all the trucks. The total for the 8 is $52,540.52. We have been assured that we are getting the county's price on that because they're also buying it and, they're also buying them. And, we're getting a substantial discount because of lumping those two, together. Now, financing, what did we talk, Diane, we talked about possibly, they were gonna give us a quote on financing.
Yes, you should have it on top of your desk.
Top of here, okay, and that's basically a lease to purchase deal, isn't it?
That's correct. As you can see there, they gave us 4 different options with semi-annual payments. 3 years would be $13,741.06. 4 years is $10,565, and then 5 years is $8,677.39, and 4 years is $7,420. And the lease rate has a good lease rate, 5%. I guess that's good.
All right, first of all, what is the council's thoughts on, would we want to go ahead and try to buy 8 of these breathing apparatuses? I may not be using exactly the right term, but they also, had the respirator that went on the face with the audio portion of it also. I think the chief has pretty much told us that we to continue to strive toward keeping our ISO rating down, and we need to go ahead and equip all the trucks with this. So is the council in favor of buying 8 of these units?
It would be 12. It would be 12.
It would be
12. It should be 8. There's 4 per truck, so 3 trucks, that would make 12, right?
Yeah.
I thought he said he did.
some of them,
Each truck is equipped with, 4 air bottles with the harness. And you have to have, 4 spare with each one of those.
there were extra cylinders, I think,
Right, there were extra cylinders which we were gonna get resurfaced.
Right.
But none of them had the new respirator, none back, all of them still.
Right, but on this second quote at the top, they're talking about
Like, yes,
8, correct?
And the first one talk about 4 of the same thing. PSIG, same thing. On 4, it's supposed to be 12. We was looking at 12.
Yeah, you're correct, because it's 52 and 23, you're correct, I think. So, all together, it's $75,570.97 for all of them. I don't know why he quoted those 4 separately, but those extra he did, you're correct.
Because he had ballers on the 4,
Right.
everyone's gonna get resurfaced,
All right, so the total investment will be $75,570.97. The only, if the council is in favor of replacing all 12 of these units, or buying all 12 of these units, the question would be, the financing. And the only other option to that would be, would we consult with First State Bank and see what kind of rate they would give us, because we are a not-for-profit entity, and typically we can get a pretty low rate for them. So, first of all, let me say this, we have a motion that we purchase these 12 units for a cost of $75,570.97.
Question before you do that. Did you not say, or did you say we did not use it in a splash money for this?
We don't have much spot money.
We don't have enough.
We could use what portion of spot money we got, maybe just we could. Plus, we're gonna get some more money from the city, from the county, but, it probably is apparent at this point, we probably would need to finance these units. So, do we have a motion that we purchase all 12 of the units? So, all right, now do we have any discussion?
The ones who's in over the finances, to me, would be better suited to see which option to go for, but there are no finance.
Right. That's what we're gonna tackle after we decide how to buy them. We'll tackle that. All right, we have a motion and a second to purchase them. We have a roll call, please, ma'am.
Alderman Jones. Alderman Howard. Alderman Mott. Alderman Johnson. Alderman Ham. And Alderman Gadsden.
All right, now, can we have a motion that would allow the finance committee to pursue the, most economical way to finance the units?
So moved.
And a second. All those in favor say aye. So if we can, if the finance committee can save some money on this leasing rate, we'll go that route. Okay, everybody satisfied with that? All right, next on the agenda is the committee reports. Ms. Jones, I don't guess you have you have a report?
We didn't move.
Yes, ma'am. All right, we will be moving that. Take care of this. All right. Ms. Howard, Public Safety?
We met with the, police chief, and he's going to apply for some grant, a grant to get the other equipment that the police department needs, and a grant to, get some more police cars.
And I think that was a firehouse grant up to $25,000 with no match.
And he has hired 2 female officers, one full-time and one part-time. The fire department, the chief was under the weather, he didn't meet with us. Do you have anything to report in for the fire department?
To add, we're also looking to apply for that firehouse, grant for some equipment that we need.
All right.
Mr. Mott, did you have anything to add to it?
No, ma'am. All right. Any questions for Ms. Howard? All right. Ms. Johnson?
We didn't meet officially, but unofficially, I did talk to Mr. Jackson, and he is working to try to get the, this grant we're trying to get. I know he's flushing out different, fire hydrants and stuff going around doing that.
Excuse me, Ms. Johnson, did you say anything about money that's gonna get the playground equipment?
No, he didn't.
You haven't really started on it, have you?
Not as far as I know. Mr. Gasson, has he started, have he started on the equipment?
No, not yet. I spoke to him earlier today. We did have some individuals really helping out from the community because they really want to figure out playground out. One thing we're looking at is with the lift station, like Mr. Jim Livingston was saying, they're working on that. They're also working on, since we had some inclement weather this past weeks, I'm working on a lot of issues with that, the rain, trees falling down. right now, I'm not supposed to be suggesting that. It was in fact working on the legislation and all that flood, which I hope all the citizens can really, if they get with me or anybody from the council, to write a letter of concerns about that flood area over by, I think it was Seymour Street, and I believe it's Third Street too, if I'm not correct, so that can help with this grant, with this grant, $750,000. That will really help. That was it.
All right. Mr. Ham? Yes, sir. You have anything you want to add to anything?
No, sir.
Okay.
I do have a question now.
Yes, ma'am.
Should have asked it earlier, but going back to the judge, if he's supposed to sign this, ordinance that we put in for, and he chooses not to sign it, will he still be able to do it?
It was kind of hard time being my judge. I don't think we'll have a problem. All right. No other questions or comments? Do we have a motion we adjourn?
So moved.
Have a second. All in favor, say aye, or stand up. Love y'all very much.
You know, when the cutoff time, the day is to get on the agenda.
No, but I know Thursday is too late.